Recorded Books and RB Digital present Baker Street Irregulars. The Game is Afoot. Edited by Michael A. Ventrella and Jonathan Mayberry. Narrated by Karen Chilton, Jamie Jackson, Corey Jackson, and Jonathan Todd Ross. Introduction. My Old Friend Sherlock Holmes by Jonathan Mayberry. There are a lot of great and enduring characters in popular fiction. Ask anyone to write a list of 10 or even 20, and it's a snap. Dracula and Frankenstein, Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. The list goes on. For me as a kid, it was Doc Savage, Conan, John Carter of Mars, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, the Eternal Champion, and... well, the problem is that we can all build those lists. And as we grow, the characters on those lists change. In my teens and 20s, Repairman Jack replaced Conan as my tough guy hero of choice. Ben Mears from Stephen King's Salem's Lot replaced Abraham Van Helsing. Carl Edward Wagner's anti-hero, Cain, replaced the pure of heart King Arthur. And so on. I'm looking at the age of 60, close enough to read the fine print, and still that list keeps changing because I keep reading, and in doing so, making new literary friends. However, since boyhood, there has always been one character that has never fallen off my list. Not once. He's been steadfast, endlessly interesting, and a good companion. That person is, of course, Sherlock Holmes. And note that I said person. I use the word with precision. Unlike most fictional characters, Holmes has always been intensely real to me. A few others, too, like John D. MacDonald's Travis McGee and James Lee Burke's Dave Robichaux, and a handful of others. But even in the company of other characters, Sherlock remains a lifelong companion and friend. I've spent a lot of time decoding why. At first, I thought that it was the humanity of Dr. John Watson that appealed most to me. He was kinder, more human than Holmes. He had the social graces, if not the towering genius. And in the stories, he was no dum-dum, as he was in the Basil Rathbone Nigel Bruce films I saw on late-night TV back in the 60s. Watson was an appropriately intelligent and experienced man of his times, a cut above the everyman because he was, after all, a medical doctor. And I like Watson, I really do. But it was not his name on the list. It was Sherlock Holmes, on every version of that list. As I got older and became a more discerning reader, and later a scholar, I gradually decoded my fascination with Holmes. On the surface, Holmes is wonderfully appealing because he is not an everyman. He's not even an every other man. He is unique because he specializes in very minute and very precise observation, which is then filtered through a great storehouse of personal knowledge, such as the varieties of ash in different cigarettes sold in London at that time, or the pigmentation of various kinds of soil, like that. Quick side note before we continue. In the stories, this is wrongly referred to as deductive reasoning. Technically, he uses inductive reasoning far more often, and occasionally a blend of both. Deductive reasoning is where the observer starts with a premise and then seeks to prove it. Inductive, on the other hand, is where the reasoner extrapolates information that he has observed in order to arrive at the most logical supposition, or ideally a firm conclusion. In either case, the collection of forensic evidence and the observation of the crime scene in situ allowed Holmes to make what often appeared to be extraordinary leaps bordering on the magical. In an era when forensic science was in its infancy, the novelty of the Holmes stories was profound. Granted, author Arthur Conan Doyle took inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe's earlier tales of C. Auguste Dupin, Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Purloined Letter, and The Mystery of Marie Roget, who in turn was inspired by the real-life troubled genius Thomas de Quincey, the noted opium eater. But Doyle expanded upon the method of observation, evidence collection and analysis, evaluation, and inductive reasoning to craft a character who became the world's first, and greatest,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.